This episode of the Party Loaded podcast is proudly sponsored by Audible.com. Check out their awesome catalogue of audiobooks with over 180,000 titles to choose from. And be sure to grab a free audiobook on us and support the show by visiting audibletrial.com/endgame.
Let's party.
Hey, hello, and hi, and welcome to the Party Loaded podcast for Wednesday, the 6th of March. Hitting into Mad March, things are going to get crazy, but we're going to start things off with a nice dose of everything great in the world of video games. I am one of your hosts tonight to bring that to you. My name is Luke Retallick. Also joining me tonight, we have the full crew on deck. We've got Christian Paulson Brown, we've got Matt, Game Dad Diet, we've got Adrian Cheer, and we have the lovely Jam. Hello, gang.
Everyone here.
That's it.
We are all here.
Party loaded.
Not only that, but we actually managed to get together all at once IRL for the first time in God knows when this week.
Oh,
So,
it's disgusting.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was good. So long
Human
weekend.
contact was unpleasant.
Uncomfortable.
Yeah. No, it was fun. It was great.
I don't know, Adrian, the cheesecake that you made for all of us begs to differ on the unpleasantness scale. I think that was fairly pleasant indeed.
So good.
It honestly made up for having to see Adrian's face, yeah.
That's why I have to bring a cheesecake everywhere I go, because I'm constantly apologising for my face.
Hello. Sorry.
Instead of people's eyes glazing over, it's the gelatine glazing over on top of the cake.
Exactly.
Nice substitute.
That's fair.
Beautiful. No, we just had a long weekend, so got to get together and play some fun games and introduce you guys after chatting about Roman games during our Domina Party Game of the Month review to an awesome board game of a similar vein by the name of Spartacus. So, and, you know, fun and debauchery and supreme backstabbing ensued. And I think we all look very differently at Mr. Christian Paulson Brown now.
Yes.
Hey, just don't mess with me. I'll get you.
I'm not even disappointed. I'm impressed.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I don't look
Nothing
at him
personal,
differently.
You don't look at him differently, Adrian.
No, a piece of me has just died, that's all.
Is it the piece that he stuck the knife in and twisted?
A piece of us.
It's he managed to critically hit the friendship spot between my shoulder blades.
Ouch. Ouch.
It was glorious.
Yeah. It was certainly fun to watch from the spectator's angle, I can tell you that. It was great, yeah. But a good solid weekend of gaming, and I think that's probably a logical place for us to kick off tonight when we dive into this week in gaming. So, Matt, would you like to open us up tonight with some of your exploits over the weekend? What's going on?
Yeah, so I did a big charity stream on Sunday, and I was aiming for 12 hours. I got to 10 before a massive migraine absolutely hit me in the face, because I was sick last week. Spoilers, that's why I wasn't here. But I opened up with Fallout 76 and then quickly realized, wow, this game is much more shit than I remember. And that's all I have to say about that one. But then we played some of the Isle, which I was talking about before, which is basically Dino DayZ. And it is a lot of fun. We played as some carnivores. I can't remember what ones we were playing as at first, but we were basically just running around. Oh, we were the spitty acid dinosaurs you see in Jurassic Park.
The ones that kill Newman in the car.
Yeah.
They're not
but they
real. I thought they weren't real, those dinosaurs.
So they're not, because the ones that we were playing as were technically, I don't even know if they're the real ones, but they can't spit acid and they don't have frill necks. But named the same thing. I just can't remember the name of them.
Dilophosaurus?
Dilophosaurus, that's it. Yeah, or something like that.
Is that because they spit a dollop of something in your face? Seriously, it works.
As I say, in the game they don't spit. But anyway, we were playing them for a little bit. We got absolutely decimated by some large herbivores. And I was one of the few survivors, and we kind of went off on this trek. We ended up actually, like, our tiny little group of carnivores stumbled into this huge valley that it turned out was packed with like 30 herbivore players. And they very aggressively defended their valley. So we got destroyed by them, but then we ended up messaging them and being like, hey, can you hatch us as herbivore eggs? Because that'd be really fun. And so I spent the rest of the stream as a little baby triceratops running around, and I had some Parasaur brothers and sisters that I was running around with. And it was basically just, it turned from this, hey, we're going to go running around hunting and murdering everyone stream to, hey, I'm a baby and this is freaking adorable stream.
So when a bunch of herbivores decide to destroy you, is that because they've made the decision that your ass is grass? Is that how that works?
Yes. I'm pretty sure that's how it works.
I make no apologies. Anyway, please continue.
But yeah, so we wrapped up the day by playing a whole bunch of Jackbox. So we played Party Pack 5 and 4. And oh god, those games are still so much fun. Like the rap battle in the most recent one, maybe my one of my favorites. There's another one in there that's like you make pitches for shitty like invention ideas, which is genuinely always really funny. But the rap battle thing is just hilarious. Like, one of my friends, RK, was playing with us, and she was up against me, and it's all about burning each other. It's a rap battle, right?
Yeah, it's Gamer Nerd 8 Mile by the sound of it.
Yeah, basically. And I think the funniest moment we had of playing Jackbox was when she told me that it was unfortunate that my mother wasn't pro-choice.
Ooh.
And I can't even remember what the first line was of the rhyme that she made, but the second line, it didn't matter. Like that, I was just destroyed by that. I'm pretty sure I got no votes. I was rather pleased with my rap and everything, but nope, she just completely tore me a new one.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, other than the weekend charity stream, I actually did play some other games while I've been away for the past week unwell. I finally put in some time with Hollow Knight, which is really good. But I have to be in a certain mood to play it. Like, I don't really usually enjoy super difficult games that require me to die and then have to run back to my body and everything. But I actually really like that mechanic here. It's just that I have to be in a specific kind of mood to sit down and actually play that. I love the feel of it. I love that it's like Dark Souls, but with cute bugs. And I hate making the Dark Souls comparison, but I think here it actually works really well. And as promised, I actually started playing some Fallout 1 on stream, which I've been surprised by. So anybody that was watching would have known that I made a talkie character that punched people. And then I discovered that apparently charisma doesn't work the way I thought it worked, and it doesn't actually unlock new dialogue options. It just makes people respond better to you. And so you need intellect to actually get dialogue options. And so my talkie character couldn't talk. I secretly went and remade the character with a whole bunch of intellect and started the game over off stream so that I could just pick up where I left off. And it's been really good. Like, I can see why a lot of people say that it's better than the kind of Bethesda mainline Fallout games outside of New Vegas, which isn't a Bethesda mainline Fallout game. But anyway, storytelling-wise, it's super, super interesting. Like, you aren't really guided anywhere. You have to kind of make notes as to what people tell you. Quests are basically like, hey, you know, this person told me this thing needed to happen, and I need to figure out a way to go and do that. And they will tell you, like, directions and such. You remember how Red Dead Redemption 2 was like, in its advertising, yeah, you can turn off the mini-map and people will give you directions on where to go, but then you would still have a map that had icons on it. Fallout is nothing like that. It actually is just like, yeah, you need to go this way to get to this place, and if you don't make a note of that and you forget the directions, you're fucked. You have to go and pick up, like, a strategy guide. I actually really like that. And the last thing I put some time in with was the Division 2 beta. Only a tiny little bit. I played like a couple of hours of it, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I kind of walked away at the end of it going, I need a squad to enjoy this fully. So I will probably end out passing on the Division 2 when it comes out. Not because it's a bad game, but because I don't have a big group of other players to play with, especially when Destiny 2 just released a really major patch, which we'll talk about in the news section. But yeah.
I'm working on it, Matt. I'm working on Division Squad.
If we get a Division Squad, I will probably pick it up. But until we have a Division Squad, I'm not going to worry too much about it.
Yeah, I get what you mean. It can be quite a difficult game unless you've got a few people jumping into certain missions with you. Some of the late raids, it look like they're actually going to be making up to 8-mans, so that's crazy. Yeah.
The difficulty I didn't actually mind. Like, I think I'm pretty good at third-person shooters. The bigger problem was that when I was playing, I was like, I'm a single person and I can see that this game is meant to be played fairly strategically. Like, you can totally flank enemies and everything like that. And you have one person with a shield up that, can just be up in one area and drawing all the attention as your friends go around and flank. You can't really do that on your own. And that's the kind of playstyle that I think I would play. I would actually really like to be that guy with the shield that's just completely not stealthy. It just goes rushing into a group of enemies because all my friends are going to pick them off. So, yeah.
If it reviews well, I'll consider it. Division
Yeah.
2.
Ooh.
If it's not like one of these broken, busted ass games as a service games, which Ubisoft hopefully won't do, then I'll consider it.
The first one had a really fun co-op campaign.
Mm-hmm.
It was just great to play with friends.
How big are the squads?
Typically 4. Well, that was
4.
the first one.
That sounds about right.
The only question I have, Matt, is it one of those modern style shooter games where every gun you pick up is just a different version of the same type of gun? I imagine because it's kind of like a modern shooter, that might be the case.
Yes.
Like just different machine guns and stuff.
Yeah.
There is a degree of that, but like I do find so if it's anything like the Division 1, like if you pick up one assault rifle and start using it, another assault rifle you pick up, so like you will find different qualities of M16, for example, right? Mm-hmm. And they will all shoot exactly the same because they're an M16. But if you find an AK-47, it's probably going to have a lot more spray and it's going to go all over the place and everything, but it will hit harder. And you have different qualities of AK-47. So it does have like differences in that respect.
And there's attachments.
Yeah,
But,
you can have the
they're all
attachments
just
and
real
such.
guns. There's nothing wacky in there.
Oh, no,
Nothing
there's definitely wacky stuff. There's like all sorts of gadgets and weird sort of drones and shit like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But those are more like powers compared to guns.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, if enough people get into it, I might be interested in trying it at least.
All right, hang on. I'm making some notes. Cool. All right, squad of 3.
We have a crew.
Yep, that's it.
Oh, no, I said if it reviews well, if it comes out, it's shithouse. I'm not going to touch it.
I'm just anticipating that it will be fun.
My impression was that it's going to review well. I think that people are going to find that the end game has so much more content. Like that's the impression I've gotten. They have, like, as part of the open beta, they were basically like, hey, if you want to play some end game content, play some end game content. We've got it there. You can see what you've got. The question is really going to be how long will the end game content last you? Because and that really comes down to how much you're going to play. I reckon. Like that's the big problem.
I want to say I'm getting like the word endgame content, the phrase endgame content is starting to almost make me feel sick.
Yes.
I don't know. Like
I'm with you there.
I want to know your game content. Don't tell me just what happens when I finish your game. Like finishing your game should be like that should be the fun thing is playing the game, not the end of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of like, what kind of tail is it going to have after you get through that fixed intro, I guess is what they're getting at. But I agree with you. It's an annoying term, but it's also the one that most people understand and is what represents the long-term value to them. So I understand why they're using it. But I totally get it. I will say that the media campaign for the Division 2 has been very well done. So they've been releasing information in a staggered way that sort of gives people snippets of content over the course of many, many weeks without being confusing. And I think that of all of the live service games that we've seen in recent years, they appear to be the ones that truly kind of have learnt from their mistakes in the past because they're really sort of broadcasting in a direction that sort of says, hey, we know that this happened last time. This is what we've done to fix it, sort of thing. So
that's all just marketing. That's what is the game good? Then the game's good. Like we'll wait and see.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I don't have to wait too long. It's just over a week out. So, it'll be interesting.
Oh, really?
Speaking of
that
out,
happened fast.
Ape Out.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did a little bit of travel for work over the last couple of days. So I had a bit of plane time. And one of the things that I did take with me to play on the plane and then ended up playing it sort of in other places instead on the Switch was a little game called Ape Out, which is just released from Devolver Digital. So it is basically, all right, Adrian, I'm going to pitch this game to you because I think that this would actually be right up your alley specifically. So,
okay. Mm-hmm.
Now, are you a fan of fine jazz?
I am.
Are you a fan of, large monkeys?
It's an ape, Luke.
Apes, yeah, you could even say apes. Are you a fan of absolute wanton destruction and blood and gore on a scale unparalleled?
Are you talking about real life or in a video game?
In a video game.
Because the answer either way is yes.
Not so much.
Yeah. So anyway, this game is all those things. So basically, what you are playing is a ape that is escaping captivity in like a large building. So it's like a science lab of some sort that you're escaping from.
Ape out.
Yeah, it's exactly right. He's bugging out. He's aping out. He's breaking out. And he is fucking smashing out because the game is one of the most violent breakout simulators I have ever seen. But the art style is very sort of like basic kind of cell shaded style, similar to Superhot, actually, in a way. Yeah. But the game is a top-down view. And you're basically moving your ape through all the different floors of this building, and your ape on screen is just like this big massive orange, like resembling the shape of an ape. It doesn't go into a huge amount of detail. But you're basically running around and you're trying not to get hit, and you're just basically smashing your way through like floor upon floor of armed guards, trying to find the exit. And some of the stuff you can do in this game is just wild. Like you can pick up guards and like literally as they're shooting off their last shot, you can aim them at their colleagues. So they're firing their own guns at their buddies. You can pick them up and just throw them through dudes and they just explode. Like there is fucking gore everywhere.
Hotline Miami, that's great.
Very, very Hotline Miami if you've ever played that. Yeah.
Okay.
So you're literally painting floors with the bodies of the fallen as you're ripping your way through. You can pull doors off of sort of sides of the wall and just throw them at dudes and just completely eviscerate them. You get some specialized sort of enemies later on which have like bomb packs strapped to them and you can sort of throw them at the right moment and explode a whole bunch of guys. But the key is that you actually can't take many hits. Like if you get hit 3 times, that's it. You basically have to start over. The levels are slightly procedurally generated, but not a huge amount. Like they still follow like a fairly basic template. And the game's not super long. Like I managed to finish it in probably just around 2 hours, I'd say. But the reason why I said jazz before is because the soundtrack for the game rocks. It is so good, and it is done in that fantastic way where the music completely matches the action on screen. So as you're ramping up and getting into combat with a whole bunch of dudes, like the jazz starts to really crank up and it starts to match the actions of your ape, like smashing through guys. And midway through the level, it does do the sort of switching from A side to B side kind of tone shift as well. And I think that, like Adrian, you would love this game for just the music, if nothing else. I think it's a real sort of achievement in how they've managed to blend the two together. So,
yeah, cool.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Really, really simple, really fun, and great soundtrack. So that ticks a whole bunch of boxes for me. So yeah, Ape Out, bit of fun. Christian, let's throw to you for some various updates of things.
Yeah,
so
just a quick few updates on stuff I've been playing. So I finished off Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Game continued to be great. The ending isn't super great, but the ending to Origins was really disappointing. So by comparison, it was still really fun.
And this is without doing any of the DLC yet?
Without doing any of the DLC, just the main game. And one completely spoiler-free thing that Odyssey does, which I don't like, is I've noticed in a couple of games recently, like open world games in particular, they do this thing where you finish the game, but the game actually never stops. Like credits never roll. It just kind of, you do the final objective and then you're put straight back into the open world and you're free to like continue doing quests and stuff, but there's no more main story. And I don't know, I really like having that sense of finality of a credit sequence. So even though I know that I finished all the main story Odyssey content, it's still like, I was like, where's my closure? That's just a tiny thing.
I actually totally agree with that. I hate it when a game just takes away your sense of achievement from seeing credits scroll. Yeah. Because they can always do something smart or like the whole thing of, okay, we watch the credits scroll and then you do something that's actually in universe. That's super easy to do in Assassin's Creed. You jack back in and you get to keep on running around for some reason or another.
Yeah. And like there are creative things you can do with credits too. And like Ubisoft credits are always some of the longest in the industry. I think only Rockstar really rivals their credit length. But you can either just skip through it or have some sort of mini game or something. But yeah, I don't know. That doesn't really make a big difference to the game, but just something I noticed. I also downloaded Dragalia Lost, which is the Nintendo mobile gacha game.
Hang on. What were we talking about last week, Christian?
I know, right? So we were talking about how they're basically gaming cancer, and they remain gaming cancer. And I downloaded it out of curiosity, and I played it for maybe a sum total of 1 hour, and then I deleted it. So,
okay, so your excuse is that you did this for science. That's basically what you're saying?
I didn't pay a cent. I just checked out what it was because I was curious what Nintendo's take on a gacha game would be.
Yeah.
From what I can tell, it's the exact same as every other gacha game. The gameplay itself is maybe a little more fun, but it's still super basic. Not interesting at all. So
I totally
deleted.
get it. Like every time that I want to see if the carton of milk is off, I totally drink the whole thing. I totally get it. Yeah.
If Nintendo made a carton of milk, I'd sniff it. All right.
I much prefer the narrative of you coming back and reporting that you'd spent like $200,000 in the space of 30 minutes on a gacha game. Made for a more heartwarming story, I think.
And then I continue to make my way through Link's Awakening on my 3DS. So I'm 6 out of 8 dungeons through that. And playing through it has given me a couple of like predictions or wishes for the upcoming remake that I just wanted to quickly spin out. So there's like one thing in Link's Awakening where there are like 20, I think, hidden seashells throughout the whole overworld map. And there's a really good reward for finding the hidden seashells, and there's no indicator system in the game to give you any hints or indication of where they are. And I think that I can see Nintendo putting in some sort of system like a vibration or some sort of map to let you find these seashells, because their reward is really good. And it just feels like in this day and age, they would point you in the right direction somehow. I also predict that there's going to be a new dungeon in the game, because Link's Awakening DX, which I'm playing, that was the Game Boy Color edition, and they actually put in an extra dungeon for the DX version that was a color dungeon, and so there are puzzles in it that you need to be able to see the colors for. And I think that they'll do something for the Switch. I predict they'll do a new dungeon which utilizes like the HD rumble or some other feature of the Switch. I can just see that being like a nice little thing to add to the game.
That would be cool.
And then lastly, in Link's Awakening, you're constantly switching items between your like sword and shield and shovel and boomerang and hookshot and everything. But you always have to go into you can only equip 2 at a time, because there was only an A and a B button on a Game Boy. And I predict that they're going to make that a lot more user friendly, and that you're going to be able to have like either 4 face buttons of tools or cycle through them with L and R, something like that, to make it more practical, because it's really a hassle to always be switching through your menus to change your tools. So just a couple of quick predictions that I'll see if I'm right about when the game comes out.
Well, I hope you're right about those. Those sound like really good changes if they come to pass. So yeah, nice. Oh,
That's me.
Jan, what's going on with you? What's happening in the world of motorbikes and rocket men?
Yes, I finished Anthem. I liked the story. For the most part, there was a bit in there. Well, there was something in there that I think was a little telegraphed and a bit of a twist. And I was a bit disappointed that it went ahead when my choice of dialogue didn't appear to alter the outcome. Is as much as I'll say. But yeah, it was a really fun final mission. I played it through with Ollie and Chris on hard first, and then with Dave and Ollie when Dave got to it. And both times we were laughing and cheering and nearly died, which was great.
Did you have
but
any?
It felt satisfying.
Did you have any dramas or bugs with the cutscenes towards the end of the game? Did that affect you?
So once I was flying up towards the top of the open world map for lols, and when you get to a certain height, there's like a big draft of wind that pushes you back down, and everything goes really loud and fuzzy. I just hit that point when someone clicked on the trigger for the next cutscene, and I spent the whole cutscene very windy. Everything was blurry and loud, windy, and I'm squinting, going, "What's happening?" But other than that, no, it was pretty straightforward. And entertaining. I got my first 2 masterwork guns, which was kind of cool. I haven't tried any of the new strongholds yet. It's going to have to work for my attention in the next week. Otherwise, I'm probably just going to drop my Premier Access subscription when Destiny 2 comes out, which means I will have paid $20 to play the game. So yeah, that was cool. And more trials. I've I've unlocked the Mantis, the 3rd bike, which is the one that's not as fast but extremely responsive and maneuverable. So now I'm doing challenges on some of the same levels to get my level up to unlock the sort of arena tournament challenges, which will help me unlock, I believe, access to the expert tracks.
Yeah.
And my brother is absolutely smashing it, and he keeps beating my times, and it's frustrating, and I hate him.
So at which point do you get to unlock the cool Dan Bull music track? Is that?
Oh, that's apparently the end of the campaign. I think I'm a little far from that.
Oh, wow.
I'm pushing through medium at the moment, but then there's expert after that, and then I can't remember if there's a level after that that's before ninja, but ninja is where things get utterly bullshit. I don't expect to get there, but I do want to finish the campaign, so
Yeah.
I'm not looking at the Dan Bull song until I earn it. That's what I have decided.
Nice. Some tough love for yourself. That sounds good. Nice. All right. Well, yeah, that's a fair bit of stuff during the week. I think it's a nice point for us to shift gears and chat about some gaming news.
Now it's time to hear some gaming news. Time for some gaming news.
All right. So, in our last episode, on last week's episode, we basically left off just before all of the Pokemon Direct madness hit. So we didn't really get a chance to talk about our reactions to the announcement of the new Pokemon Sword and Shield for Switch. So I guess we'll just kick off briefly with a little bit of that. So what do you guys think of what they showed? Are you excited? Did you like the new starters?
Super excited, and I really like all the new starters.
Yeah.
I think it looks awesome.
It's good.
I mentioned it on Twitter that the last time I really enjoyed a Pokemon game was when I was a kid and I had the Game Boy attachment for my Super Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
And I would play Pokemon on my TV. And I've not had that since because everything's been on a 3DS. And unless I go and hack my 3DS, I can't do that. So the fact that I'm now getting a Pokemon game that lets me do that, I am so excited. And I think that all of the starters are super adorable. I've been flip-flopping back and forth whether or not I want to choose Sobble or Score Bunny, and I've basically decided there's a lot of people theorizing that Score Bunny is actually going to be a soccer-themed Pokemon.
Ah.
And if that's the case, then I'll go with Sobble.
Yeah. That's pretty much where I'm at.
The score in Score Bunny can double for like Scorch and also like scoring a goal. So
Dear. No, please no. Oh, shit. No, that's cool. Adrian, where do you land on that? Have you got a preferred out of the three, or...?
I tend to gravitate towards water starters, Pokemon games, because they're usually less mammalian, like as a general rule, and I prefer the kind of reptile, amphibian kind of animals over sort of warm-blooded things normally. So at first, when I saw Sobble, I was like, yeah, that'll probably be the one I pick. But now that the more I look at it, the more I like Grookey. And I especially like the idea of him turning into like a big gorilla.
Grookey gang.
So and it's been a long time since I've picked a grass starter as well, so I'm keen for that. Score Bunny is definitely at the bottom of my list because I just don't give a shit about bunnies. So yeah, I'm glad that it's already on fire because it saves me the trouble of setting
Oh my god!
Oh dear.
We need to get you on with Mimo sometime and have like World War III over her love of bunnies and your absolute disdain.
I can start World War III right now.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit about Pokemon.
No, I know you don't.
That's fine, Jen. We don't give a shit about you.
You are the point of variety that we strive for in all things, Jam. Just in this case, you're wrong.
Yeah, that's why I'm here.
To be honest though, when I saw the trailer, I'm excited that there's a new Pokemon game, but no more excited than the last time there was a Pokemon game. Like I don't feel like there's anything about this new Pokemon game that surpasses my expectations so far of anything that I've seen that's come before. So that's really it. Like I didn't watch the trailer and go, oh cool, that's more exciting than stuff I've already seen. So
I agree for the most part. Like I think that it's definitely not like a revolution in Pokemon games, but I am more excited about it than Sun and Moon for two reasons. And that's one, as Matt said, like playing it on my home TV. I'm looking forward to that experience.
Yep.
And then also I am a much bigger fan of like the European setting than the island setting. I actually didn't really like that so much. And it seems like they might be bringing back conventional gyms, which they took away in lieu of like the weird like challenge people, whatever they were.
Trials.
I
remember that.
Yeah.
Trials thing. Yeah. So I like going back to gyms. So yeah, I think it looks good.
The eternal struggle will be, because I've done it a few different ways each time a new Pokemon game has come out. Do I Google all the Pokemon that are going to be in the game, or do I let myself be surprised? And I found that when I err on the side of surprise, I do enjoy it a lot more. It's just a matter of whether I can hold out and avoid spoilers, because generally when a new Pokemon game comes out, they slowly leak, more and more Pokemon through the year, and it is kind of hard to avoid seeing them because they'll just pop up in a news feed, and you'll be like, oh, well, that's something I can't unsee. And then by the time the game is released, there's only a handful of Pokemon left in the game that you haven't seen. So I'm going to try and do a bit of a media blackout on it when it comes to the Pokemon in the game. And then hopefully, my holy grail of Pokemon might be in there somewhere. And
so if we do see an ice turtle, you're saying you don't want us to share it with you until you actually play. Is that...
No, don't tell me.
All right, cool.
It'd have to be an ice turtle, ice crab, or ice bug. One of those three.
Okay.
And and then it has to. It's kind of like a checkpoint system. First, it has to be those types. Then it has to look cool, and then its evolution has to look cool. And if it can hit all three boxes, then I'll have a new phone wallpaper and a desktop wallpaper and a shirt. That's probably what'll happen.
Nice.
That might be your holy grail Pokemon, but I think given the setting and the Pokemon Sword and Shield name, there's more likely to be an actual holy grail Pokemon.
That's true. Yep.
Yeah. I did find it amusing that there's been a few memes floating around during the week. Like probably within 10 minutes, there was some really juicy memes floating around of the announcement. But one of them actually got picked up by a Mexican newspaper, and they ran with it thinking that it was for real, and it actually wasn't. And they basically were advertising that the new games were Pokemon Sword, Shield, and Gun, and they didn't do their fact checking.
It's Pokemon Gun, that was the best.
The absolute best thing to come out of this announcement is the amount of memes about the female player character being like a Scottish lass and like just being rude and crude. Like, that's the best thing that's come out of it. There's so much fan art of her just like slagging off like UK bitches and just and like images of her kind of transposed next to Merida from Brave and that kind of thing. So yeah, that's my favorite thing that's come out of it so far.
Good times. All right. Cool. All right, moving on. Jam, take us through our next one.
Yes. Okay. Apex Legends came out 4 weeks ago, and they've just hit 50 million players.
That's a lot of people.
They're doing very well. I think they've had up to...
the Battle Pass.
Yeah. They've had 7.6 concurrent players, which is huge.
That's a sixth of a person.
What?
That's a sixth of a person.
7.6.
Yeah, I think it's really impressive considering they've not yet released new characters. There's still only one map. It's doing so well.
Do you know what I think is impressive?
I'm still jumping in now and then.
What I also think is impressive is that it took less than 4 weeks for Fortnite to copy the ping system and to potentially copy the respawn system as well.
Like, it's so unsubtle. Like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, but why? I don't roll my eyes at that. I'm like, why wouldn't you? Like, if someone... Yeah. If your competitor brought out an excellent system, why wouldn't you immediately go, oh yeah, shit, we should do that?
I totally agree with you that you totally should do that, but maybe either one with a little bit more subtlety, or two with an absolute nod towards them. Like, okay, look, we've added in a ping system, and yes, it's because Apex did it. Thank you for this really great idea. We're stealing it. Just like we stole the whole idea of this game in the first place from PUBG.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's the legal implication why they won't go ahead and do that, even though it's pretty obvious. Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know that the respawn will work very well with a 4-man team too. That's just it's way too much opportunity for players to keep getting revived.
Well, not to mention that Fortnite at its heart has always been a 1 versus 99 kind of thing by default, and then all the other stuff came later. So
yeah.
I don't reckon they'll copy the respawn system. That's
I don't think it'll work.
It'll be interesting to see anyway. But I mean, the fans are loving it. There's 2 great games out there that sure they're competing for some of the same audience, but there's a bit of crossover at the same time too. There will be people that play both, and more power to both of them, I say. So it's good. Yeah. All right. Well, we also have some interesting Anthem follow-up news. So there's been some stuff coming out this week reporting that a bunch of users sort of post whatever the last patch was, having the game actually hard crashing their PS4s. Now, it's also been reported in a few small cases that apparently people reckon it's bricking their consoles, and I reckon that that's probably bullshit. I think people probably just don't understand what a crash is. And bricking in totality is more when the console won't turn on again for any reason whatsoever, as opposed to needing to reboot and do a data restore. But I I don't know, people hear the word bricking and they think that as soon as something doesn't work, it must be the most serious possible thing that could happen to them. And, you know, all of these chicken littles running around thinking that the PS4 world's falling on their heads. I don't know. It's, the kind of fear-mongering I've been seeing about it's been a bit over the top. But I think at its heart, the story is not a good one, and it's certainly not making BioWare or EA by extension look any good at all. And I guess they're in the process of responding now, but it's kind of not been a good couple of weeks for them, really, all things together.
Yeah. I like that they asked for help to fix it. Like, they were like, can somebody help us figure out why this game is causing the crashes? So, yeah, pretty funny.
Even though it's not anywhere near as severe as the kind of media that was going on at the same time, it is what is happening about this reminds me a lot of what happened when Fallout 76 launched.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same sort of negative media cycle that's, you know, spiraling to a point where it's over the top, and, you know, the game is obviously suffering from some issues as well in terms of its design choices. But yeah, I mean, not as serious, but it is all looking pretty familiar, which is a real shame. So
I don't think any of the Fallout 76 coverage was over the top. That was all deserved.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think the only thing over the top here is the claim that it's bricking consoles. As somebody that has launched a game on a PS4, I am amazed that they got it through with the sort of testing that Sony does. But big publishers do often get waivers from like the major console players. So, but to me, that's just like, if there was actually a risk of it bricking a console, Sony would have spoken out and have done something about it by this point. Like, they would have been like, okay, look, your PR's not handling this, we will. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's
probably been enough people playing it that a couple of people's PlayStations have actually been bricked for a completely unrelated reason at the same time as playing Anthem.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. Oh, well, as long as it's not mine, I'm happy with that. But I'm not playing it on PS4, so that's also not going to happen. So there you go. Anyway.
Well, speaking of Sony products killing things, or Sony killing things, the PlayStation Vita is officially for like the 4th or 5th time dead. So it's gone through many stages of grief, and they, first they stopped making first-party titles, and then they stopped making the physical game medium. Then there was some digital releases by third parties for a while, but now officially production of the handheld itself has ended. So goodbye Vita. You're a good little thing for PS1 games and PSP games and indie games, but you never hit the stride that you needed. So
yeah. And in related news, about 30 seconds ago, I just realised that my tiny violin app on my phone is also dead, so I won't be playing that in support of this news story.
What a pity.
How ironic.
Yes, funny.
And then one other piece of news item related to death. How good's that?
Jesus.
Plague Inc. Has announced that they're adding anti-vaxxers into their game after a change.org petition to get them included. So,
I love it.
If anyone doesn't know, in Plague Inc., you play as a pathogen or a disease, and your objective is to wipe out humanity. And there are all sorts of like random events or gameplay mechanics that can interfere with you wiping out humanity. And yeah, there was a petition that got over 22,000 signatures as of recording. And yeah, the devs announced they're going to actually add anti-vaxxers into the game in some capacity, which is pretty funny.
So they also a group that's objective is to wipe out humanity? Because if it's not,
it's a buff.
Oh yeah, it's totally a buff for you, the player, as the disease.
Yes.
It'll be something that makes it easier to infect people. For sure.
So 2 points. One, as a game developer, this is the sort of press you love to get. Like, this sort of shit just happens so very rarely. To have like 22,000 people out of the blue be like, you should add anti-vaxxers to your game, it'd be a great idea. Like, that's just amazing. Like, if I was those developers, I'd be like rubbing my hands together like, yes, perfect. That's 22,000 sales we're about to make.
Yeah.
But number 2, have you seen the Steam reviews since they actually announced that they'll be adding this shit? It is so funny. There are so many people on there that are genuinely pissed off that they're adding anti-vaxxers to the game. And that one, like, these people are people that have picked up the game just to review it and return it, basically. Steam's system is fucking broken. So that's kind of shit. But it is so funny seeing these people pissed off and ranting in the reviews about the fact that anti-vaxxers are being added to the game. Like, come on. What the hell?
That's just more publicity for the game, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
When it releases
And
and
I love
it does
that
well, they're going to be taking their medicine, that's for sure.
I love that the petition itself, all it said, the entire body of the petition is anti-vaxxers are stupid. That's it.
Glorious.
Yep. Cool. All right. And then the last piece of news for tonight, Destiny 2 Season of the Drifter is starting tonight. So it'll be a couple of days away now when this episode comes out. But yes, there's a whole bunch of new stuff that they've added. They've added I'll get to this last one later on because it's super exciting. But Gambit Prime, and there's Gambit Prime gear that you can get from an event called The Reckoning, which is an endgame PvE event that's not a raid. It looks like it's a 4-player thing. And it has waves of enemies. But Gambit Prime is basically a single round of Gambit with much tougher enemies, and apparently it changes every couple of weeks. In the same way that the game was changing with Marasov every week. You know, there was some other new event with her. There's bounties to catch you up, so you can get straight in. I'm currently 540. To actually start playing Gambit Prime and such, I need to be 640. There are now bounties in the game that will give me 640 rated gear so that I can jump straight in, and I'm so happy about that. It was taking me weeks to grind up.
I've got to say, that is the number one reason why I will jump in and play this content, because I can do that easy stepping stone within an hour or two. Yep.
Absolutely. I kind of think that maybe Activision had a part in the not having a catch-up mechanic before. Like, I kind of get that might be the impression, like maybe they had a deal with Sony or whatever, that they got a share of sales. I don't know. Anyway, but the last thing, and the thing that they've seemed to be talking up the most, they've been doing a whole bunch of lore posts on the Bungie website, basically talking about this whole story where there's a woman that is investigating the player character as being the person that was responsible for killing Cade 6. And it's super interesting. Like, they seem to come to the conclusion that the player character is not responsible for that, but they're going to start talking about working with the player character to start investigating the Drifter. And the Drifter is this kind of shady character that appeared out of nowhere with a whole bunch of Taken, who were one of the enemy types. And so one of the pieces of content that they're adding in Season of the Drifter is allegiance quests, where you can decide whether you're going to work with the Vanguard, the good guys, or the Drifter, the maybe bad guy. And
that is cool.
Really fucking cool. Like, I'm so excited about that. If they add some sort of PvP stuff, like, I can't remember what the exact line of dialogue was, but when they were announcing Season of the Drifter, like, the tag for the season was something about, like, the real enemy is yourself or something like that. And so if they have it that you can now pick sides and players will actually be fighting other Guardians, like, oh my god, that would be amazing. But yeah, I'll be siding with the Vanguard, I'm sorry.
Oh, really? I was going to say, all Drifter all the way for me. That guy's a champ.
No, awesome. I'm siding with the Vanguard. Like,
I'll be Team Mystic.
Team Mystic.
I hear you can buy a coin now and change that if you want to change your mind. Funny. Yeah, no, it's great. I think they're doing all the right things with this one compared to what they would have learned with Black Armory. So
yeah,
I'm looking forward to cramming it in for the next 2 days up until Devil May Cry 5 comes out.
There was also a whole bunch of people that were really pissed off about the fact the microtransactions were changing. I think it's positive the way they're changing. But all of the negative press about the way the microtransactions were changing went out the window when they announced that one of the new pay-only emotes that you can get is of the Guardian petting a dog.
Oh no, that's glorious. Yeah. Oh, looking forward to it. That's gonna be a good time. So, all right. Well, speaking of a good time, let's again move on to our next big topic tonight. Of course, it is the first episode of the new month, which means it is, of course, our party game of the month episode, and we have a cracker of a review tonight. We are going to be checking out and chatting about Oxenfree, which has been sitting on our list for quite some time, to say the least. So now, am I correct in saying that all of us played and managed to finish this game? Are we all through to the end?
Yes.
Yes. Jam, did you finish it?
Yes.
Yep.
Excellent. So I think that might be the first one that we've all done.
I did not only finish it, I 100%ed it.
Oh.
I collected all of the shit.
Okay.
Well done.
Gotta get one up on everybody else. Yeah, show
Yeah.
off.
I do.
Nice. All right. Well, Matt, why don't you kick us off then and tell us about the basics on the game, who's it made by, and availability and price and all that sort of stuff. So
Before you do, very quickly, this game is super spoilery. So are we going to do like a general gloss over with impressions and then dig
Yes.
deeper into spoilers?
yeah,
We're
let's
just going to
segment
describe
it.
the game basically,
Yeah.
and then everything after that will be a spoiler discussion.
All right, so we'll warn people.
Okay.
Good.
Let's do it. Rock and
Cool.
roll.
Okay. So this game was developed by Night School Studio, and when I actually went and looked them up, they are also responsible for a couple of other games that I really like. But the main one was Mr. Robot Exfiltration, which is a mobile game.
That game rules.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It is so good. The moment I saw that these were the people responsible, I'm like, oh my god, yes. And no wonder this is such a good game. Spoilers, it's a good game. Yeah, so basically, it was released on the 15th of January in 2016. It's available on Steam for just under $30 Australian. It's on Xbox One, PS4, Switch, Linux, Android, and iOS as well. No idea what price.
Basically everything.
Yeah, it's basically everything. And yeah, so the mechanically, it's sort of a platformer. You can jump around and such. But the primary thing about the game is that you're running around with a group of friends. Your character is Alex, and you're traveling with your friends and your stepbrother to this island where a bunch of weird shit happens. Basically, it's basically a whole bunch of teenagers.
Kids
out
sneaking
drinking.
onto an island to do kids things,
Yeah.
and then zany stuff happens or
Exactly.
creepy stuff happens. Yeah.
Yeah, so and this is why we're talking spoilers, because we can't talk anything more than that without getting into spoiler territory.
It's a Scooby-Doo
I-
adventure without the dog in the mystery van.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say it's like it felt more like a point and click adventure than
Yes.
a platformer. I'd say.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's definitely, like I was going to say, like the platforming is like the side mechanic. Like it's just a way of getting around from scene to scene. There is a lot of exploring in there. It kind of reminds me, it reminds me a lot of the Telltale games in the delivery of the narrative, but in the fact that you get to actually explore the world and such, it's way different that way. And so I do think that the platforming part is important, because it does add an air of exploration to it rather than just being on this on-rails storyline.
And speaking of Telltale as well, I don't know if what capacity they worked on it, but it also says with Skybound, and Skybound are the studio that have stepped in to finish the final season of Walking Dead.
Yeah.
So I don't know, what capacity they developed this game, but they're in there somewhere.
Yeah. But yeah, so the setting, it's out on this island that has a whole bunch of military bases and such on it. There's a small group of people that are living on there, but they're basically like living off the island and only come over to run stores and such, is essentially the idea that I got from it. And the only person that was constantly living on this island was this woman, which we'll get to later on because that's spoilers. And yeah, you and your friends basically explore this island and try to solve a mystery. It kind of reminds me a lot of Stranger Things or The Goonies.
Yeah. I was going to say Stranger Things, yeah.
Yeah. Everything else I have basically is spoilers. But we can talk about the setting, art, and sound. Like, personally, I adored the setting because, Stranger Things style setting to it. I think the art style is gorgeous. My only problem with the art style is I dislike how far away the camera is from the player. I found that made conversations and such a little bit impersonal sometimes, and I was kind of sitting there having to lean forward or squint because I couldn't see what exactly was going on.
It does zoom in slightly on occasion, but yeah,
sometimes.
not much at all.
Not much. Yeah. For a narrative game, it's very strange to be so disconnected from your character. I'll say that much.
Yeah, definitely.
Sound, I loved the sound. Like, this game got actually a couple of scares out of me just because of the sound. And the music is gorgeous. Like, the music is excellent. I thought it was great.
The thing
What
that
about you
stood out
guys?
to me the most when we're talking about audio was the actual sort of voice work by the characters.
Yeah.
Because all of the dialogue was fucking incredibly well delivered, I thought.
I completely disagree.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
me too.
Okay, well, that's
I completely
interesting.
disagree. I think that a lot of the voice actors are terrible, personally. The character Ren, I think, is terrible.
Oh my god, Rin.
Yeah, Ren's the worst. And I think that the character Nona was really good. But I think that Ren and what's the stepbrother's name?
Jonas.
Jonas, yeah.
Yeah, Jonas. I don't think they were very good, and I think Alex was average. And I don't think it was, for me personally, it wasn't just in their delivery of the lines, but it was in the sound design. So I think that the voices felt very isolated, and they didn't seem like they were coming from the environment very, like the sound wasn't like immersive. I found it, whenever a character was speaking, I could picture them talking in a studio. I couldn't get immersed in the voices.
That's
so
a
I had
fair
some real
point.
problems with the voice design, actually, with the sound.
Yeah, sounding clear to the exclusion of the environment. I think that's a fair call. I would agree with that. But look, the reason why I liked the voice work so much, and I'm probably on the complete opposite end of the scale to you with this, is that to me the dialogue didn't feel like it was, I guess, staggered or stuttered at all. It actually blended together really, really nicely to the point where, I mean, this is a good thing and a bad thing. I think it's a double-edged sword where you can actually interrupt dialogue sort of mid-conversation by interjecting with a reply out of some of the options that pop up on the screen. And the way that they kind of do it, to me, it seemed very natural. In that the way it was being delivered wasn't kind of, waiting for long cues. It was very organic in the way that the interplay between the characters sort of happened.
I disagree with that. No, I disagree.
Okay.
No, I very much disagree with that. I found the way that you interact with the characters delivering their at first, I would agree with that sentiment. And I was like, oh, cool, it kind of feels kind of natural where you kind of interrupt a conversation and you have, the conversation take a different turn depending on what you say. But I found it really jarring, and I found it very, very frustrating, especially when you would interrupt a conversation that would then never be finished, or you would interrupt dialogue that would then stop and they wouldn't go back to what they were originally talking about. I found it really annoying to be offered an option of dialogue to kind of comment on what the general conversation was, but then for often that conversation to kind of end abruptly or not be finished. Especially when transitioning between areas, where if you were continuing on through the map, if you changed screens during the middle of a conversation, you just missed that conversation and it doesn't continue. That really annoyed me.
The changing of screens I'd agree with you with, but as far as the rest goes, the reason why I liked it is exactly the reason you disliked it, because to me, that's a natural conversation. That's exactly how things work in real life.
I am the exact
like that aspect
opposite
of it
of
with
you, Adrian. I didn't like it at first, and then when I realised that my dialogue choices often have a time limit and I have to decide between one of three options to interrupt the conversation or to hear out what the person who's currently talking is saying, there was this extra sense of pressure and import on my choice, and I actually started really appreciating it after a while.
I'm going to be the odd one out here and say I'm actually right in the middle. There were situations where I liked interjecting. Like, it felt like, okay, so these two people are arguing. I'm going to jump in there and say, hey, both of you shut the fuck up. And that felt excellent, right? Like, that feels really good. But then there were occasions where it was like somebody was giving a big monologue and I'm sitting there and I'm like, I actually want to hear what they have to say. And then I'm like, oh, wait, it's just popped up with dialogue options. Oh, wait, they're going really transparent. Oh, wait, I have to interject. And so I would miss out on whatever their dialogue was because I would have to make the decision between saying nothing or actually speaking up and pushing the story in a direction.
But saying nothing is a decision.
Yeah.
Saying nothing lets them continue and removes your opportunity to steer it in a different direction, but that's still a choice.
Of real life as well. Like, that's the kind of choices we face every day, yeah.
I would agree, except the timing feels off. Like, you know, somebody doesn't just go and ramble on and do a big, a big monologue and then get to the final word in that monologue and decide you've not said anything, so they're going to go into another monologue. Like, like that's not how it works. Like, if there was a pause there,
teenagers.
like, if there was a pause there, I'd feel very differently. Like, if it gave me enough time to decide whether or not I wanted to interject whatever they were talking about, like, it would often just feel like there wasn't enough time to make that decision. Like, is silence my option here? And there were a couple of occasions where I chose silence because I didn't make a decision at all. I didn't have time to make a decision.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Mechanically, I really like the way you interact with the dialogue, actually. I like the time pressure and the interruption. That was good. My criticism was of the dialogue, like the voice acting itself and the sound design. That's what I didn't like. But the way it interacts mechanically was good. I also had some problems with the writing. I felt like, again, with Ren, his character, I felt the writing was kind of awkward and too old. Like, it didn't feel authentically like teenagers. Like,
I agree.
The actors sounded too old, and the dialogue was like, "Hey, cool kids. Let's hang out with let's go to the island and do some drinking. And like, I found it didn't feel very authentic.
I enjoyed the voice acting until the point where there were really emotional moments and nobody sounded emotional.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally.
That
Absolutely.
really bothered me. Like, whenever that would happen, it's like, okay, why aren't you reacting to this?
And you know why? Because of the way the game is laid out. It's because you can pick the order in which certain events happen. It makes no sense for them. Like, they have to return to like the same state they were before they did that event, because you could choose to do it in a different order. And I found that to be that really pulled me out of the immersion as well.
Yeah,
because it's a game with a lot of downtime.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
They have to justify why is your character acting normally in the downtime and not like freaking the fuck out all the time.
Yeah. Well, I guess maybe one thing we can all agree on at least is that the conversational mechanics form a pretty major part of the game's storytelling
Absolutely.
as you move forward.
Yeah. It's the core of the game. Like,
That's all the game is.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, just visually too, I think the backgrounds look really nice, and like they're simple but they're artistic, and I like the backgrounds.
Okay.
But the actual 3D models of the character, I feel like are a little jarring, and they contrast a little bit too much compared to the background for me. But I should say also that I think you too, Adrian, we played it on PC. And I think Luke, you played it on mobile. And what did you guys play it on?
No, I played it on my laptop, so it was on PC.
Oh, okay.
all PC. Yeah.
All PC. All right. So same experience there. So yeah, I don't know. I found the characters jarred a little bit with the backgrounds.
I think that was on purpose, and I'm going to get game dev nerdy here for a second, but like those backgrounds are all painterly. Like they're literally just painted textures with a 3D model on them. And I kind of liked the way that they did that, since it made characters pop. But I do agree that they didn't do enough to make characters actually feel like they belonged in a scene. But at the same time, while I was sitting there playing it, and I'm watching my character actually walk up this hill that I know is just a 2D texture in the background, and their feet are clearly planting at an angle on that surface, and I'm just sitting there like, have they got like a transparent 3D mesh over this 2D background? Like, that's a really interesting art style. It's really, really interestingly built. I think that the artistically is really, really gorgeous, but I do agree that the characters probably pop out too much.
All right, well,
Let's get into spoilers then.
Yeah, all right. So big warning to anyone who's ever planning on playing this game, and you probably should. This is where we talk about story stuff. So if you don't want to know about how the game plays out or ends or any of the key character stuff, you might want to skip ahead now. And then we'll do all the usual sort of rolling up our next game for next month and wrap up stuff sort of within the last 10 minutes of the show. So you have that chance. 5, 4, 3, 2. All right, spoiler time. Let's do it.
Yay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the other thing that it feels like
Navy
is
Ghosts.
butterfly effect.
Yeah, it is very butterfly effect,
Yeah.
actually. I also felt like almost Silent Hilly as
Yeah.
well.
I got some real Journey vibes, actually, from different
Journey.
elements. Yeah.
Journey.
So let me tell you why. Because there was a point at which I was walking through Fort Milner, which is the sort of military base portion of the island, and I walked past a mirror, and I saw a version of Alex looking back at me that had the name on top of it of Millpool. And I was just like, what the fuck? That's Christian. So, yeah.
I had that too.
Yeah, yeah.
And I had a Diomedes.
Yeah.
Yep. So here's the thing. The way they did that is super interesting. I really like that mechanic. I had a couple of different friends that have played the game that all popped up. Now, you guys finished it, so you got to make the decisions, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think that's really cool because you could totally misguide other players. Like, you can pop up in that mirror and be a villain. You can pop up and you can be like, you should totally get your brother to break up with what is it, Christy?
Clarissa.
Clarissa, yeah. Just have your brother break up with Clarissa. And you could totally do that. I had some advice pop up from my ghostly apparition in the mirrors, and I was like, should I actually follow that advice? And the moment I got to the end of the game and realized I could make those decisions and everything, I was basically just telling, whoever plays the game next, yeah, make whatever decision you want.
That's interesting because I think I played it first of all of us, so I didn't see anybody's names in the mirrors.
Yeah, neither did I.
So I didn't have that.
Yeah, I didn't either. No. And I don't think that's actually very interesting at all, because when someone plays through the game for the first time, they're not going to think this is another player giving me advice. They're just going to think this is part of the game. This is like this is something narrative.
Oh,
Like, I never once thought that it was another player giving me advice.
If I'd seen someone's name, I might have, though. Like,
Yeah.
if I'd seen Malignant or whatever, I would have been like, that's really interesting.
It has players' names over their head. So when you actually see them in the mirror, you know that it's another player because the fact that it has their name. The reason I picked up on it was I was seeing one of my friends who is a total troll telling me what to do, and I decided to completely disregard his advice because of the fact that I knew he was a troll. And I didn't figure that the game was just randomly picking names out of my Steam friends list and putting them over people's heads. So the fact that I was having a conversation with another person that had played it, I did find that interesting. But if you didn't have the name over their head, then it would just feel like a narrative thing.
Yeah. I didn't so much think of it in terms of like, should I or shouldn't I take the advice? To me, it was just more adding to that interactive experience of this split reality thing going on. And to me, that was just the cool factor that I thought was a nice nod. And I didn't think too much more beyond that. No, it was just a nice little interactive thing that I wasn't expecting, and because it caught me by surprise, I thought it was fun. So, yeah.
So I'll say a bold statement here. And so the whole like split reality, Navy submarine, creepy backstory thing, I think completely failed to engage me. And I think it was a exciting premise that just completely failed to deliver. I completely agree with you. I didn't find it creepy or atmospheric or like it was okay. Like it was good enough to keep my interest, but I didn't find it exciting or particularly engaging very much. And I think that the story elements to do with the submarine and the island fell a bit flat for me.
I disagree. I really enjoyed it. I think the context of that island having a history of having a military communications school on it and a base, a fort, explained a lot of the mechanics that you end up using, like the radio wave signaling and that sort of thing, in an interesting way. It tied what otherwise would probably be some disparate puzzle elements into the narrative, and the history of the island gave you clues over time as to the sort of supernatural thriller that had unraveled. I thought it was good.
I get that. Like, and just as I was playing, I had like a Word document open on my second screen, and I was writing down all sorts of little notes. Every time there'd be one of those anomalies, I'd write down what the anomaly said, and I was trying to piece it all together, and I was coming up with these exciting ideas of what I thought it might be. And I engaged. I didn't 100% it. I got all of the anomalies, and I think I missed 2 of the letters. But I read over every single thing that I found and listened very carefully. And I felt that even after, and then after I finished the game, I like looked up to see if there were any major story things or like stuff in the background that I'd missed. And there wasn't really. I pretty much captured everything, and it just wasn't engaging for me. It wasn't that interesting.
I would probably say 2 things about that. The first one is that I think that you could compare it to a lot of horror movies where like the end twist or the end sort of resolution to the plot that goes throughout like the movie is never, ever as satisfying as the journey to get there. So, it's usually about the experience during that horror film and all of the sort of weirdness and the creepiness and the scares and that kind of thing that is the value. It's not the payoff at the end, because there virtually never is a payoff that's worth it. But the other thing is that, like, when it comes to all the little clues and the way that it sort of worked into the narrative for this game, there were a couple of moments where I thought it was blended in quite well with things that you had to do. Like a good example being the Hangman game. So when you actually get quizzed on a few of the things that have gone on when you play Hangman with the Ghost, and whether you get those sort of responses right or not could be influencing some of the dialogue that happens after that point. I thought that was cool because it does test whether you've paid attention and whether you've explored enough or whether you've just tried to mainline the story or not. So
the game does that twice. In the entire game, there are 2 sections where there's the Hangman game and then there's in the house where you have to move to the different items in the house. As far as I'm aware, they're the only 2 parts of the game that challenge you like that. And I feel like, for me personally, if the game had a lot more elements like that, I would have enjoyed it. But everything else in the game felt kind of unfailable. You have to just go from point A to point B and click on everything, and it wasn't engaging because it wasn't like there was no sense of risk or anything for me. But yeah,
I fell asleep twice while playing Oxenfree. and I am generally a tired gamer, but I found the story very pretentious and very boring. I felt that the game was. I felt like while playing the game, I was expecting there to be areas where it would grab me and really pull me into the story. And at first, it started happening when you first start making contact with a few of the ghosts and you start investigating the creepiness. But I find the story never really pays off and it never really goes anywhere. And then I think one of the things that really pissed me off was toward the end when. Because all through the game, it's sort of giving you little tidbits, and the ghosts are speaking in riddles and, fragmented radio casts, kind of like Bumblebee, how he communicates by piecing, songs together. And then near the end of the game, the ghost just, in a massive burst of exposition, just tells you everything. And I was like, that's crap. Why did we just play through the game and get bits and pieces? And you might say, oh yeah, it's you now. If you haven't worked it out already, it's now the villain or the plot being given to you. I just felt it was unsatisfying and didn't there weren't any points during that exposition where I was like, aha, oh, that's what that meant. Ah, now I understand. It was just like, okay, more boring plot. And this could be a taste issue, but I
think I interrupted the end monologue.
Right.
I banished it straight away. I got to work and it went, oh, we're doing this kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, because you can interrupt the end monologue by just pulling out your radio. Yeah, because I was I'm here to do a job. I'm closing up this rip. So I pulled out my radio and they were mid monologue. They got 4 seconds into it and they were like, oh shit, we're doing this now? So they never got the opportunity to do that monologue. But I'm going to say, I actually loved the story for this. I thoroughly enjoyed it because it felt like there was a mystery there. As you're playing and you're, there's all this stuff going on. It's like, what happened to these people on this submarine? What are the ghosts? And you kind of piece those things together. And then when the Maggie Adler notes start popping up and everything, and I'm reading through them because it's clearly Maggie knew more about what was going on. And then the plot twist that it turned out that she was the one responsible for sinking the sub in the first place. I thought wasn't her friend,
not her.
No,
it was her.
It was her.
Was it?
Yeah.
She basically called in a command that was basically look, we don't know what this thing is that's unidentified off the coast. Bomb it if you come in contact. And so they bombed it, and it turned out to be their own ship. So she was responsible for creating this thing, and that's why she ended up staying on the island. Because, it turned, Anna ended up dying as well. And so she felt responsible for all those things happening. I did think it kind of sucked that it felt like that was building up to something with maybe Maggie turning up. But that never really happens. She just continues to be this character in the background. And the same goes for Anna. She never really turns up.
But I didn't even see that as a twist. Hey, when that's revealed, I was just like, okay, that's just another piece of the backstory.
Yeah,
but it didn't grab me as a twist.
I like the idea that you could play through the game without realizing that Maggie was responsible for creating that. And so it felt like my own little twist because I had put in the effort to go and actually find the clues to work out that what had actually gone on, which is why I felt inspired to actually go and collect all those documents and such. And then, this is one of those games where I'm actually really tempted to play it through a second time because there's apparently another ending to the game that you can get. So obviously there's all the different endings that you can get when you play it through the first time, depending on what your character's like. But when you actually start a second loop, because I started one out of curiosity, your character is semi-aware of the fact that this is the second time this is all happening. And the game has an ending that's appropriate to that, which I looked up spoilers on because I was curious. But they can basically actually contact their past selves and basically say, don't come to the island, stay away. And that's really neat. I like that. I think that the story around the ghosts and such, I thought that was really well written. I seriously enjoyed that. The time travel thing was weird. I enjoyed the time travel, but they never explain what's causing it other than Alex is somehow responsible for that. And it feels more like the big mystery of the game is how the hell does Alex have this power to turn back time and not why are these ghosts haunting this island? Because that story takes place in the loop of Alex uncontrollably turning back time. And when you start putting together the puzzle pieces and such, you see Ren repeatedly dying. And it's why the hell is that happening? And it turns out it's because Alex has seen every single possibility of how this unwinds and she doesn't remember any of it. And so she has occasions where she sees every different reality kind of collapsing into one, every single timeline. I like that stuff. I think it's really, really neat storytelling. I just wish that maybe they explained a bit more about what Alex's power was and how exactly that was occurring. What was the deal with the radios that you would use to fix the timeline? If I had looked on their website and seen that there was a sequel coming out, I'd be like, fuck yes, let's go. But they're not actually working on a sequel for it, so it just feels like a plot hole, basically. Or just a narrative tool, essentially.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit unfortunate, but I did really enjoy the story. I enjoyed unraveling that mystery.
I think I agree with both you and Adrian. Like, I really enjoyed the story too, but I think what Adrian said about the exposition at the end is absolutely on point. Like, it was a bit heavy-handed, sort of just dumping it all in one hit like that. That was a bit, I guess, sloppy in a way. So, yeah.
Like I had the same experience as Jam. They never got the opportunity to drop that exposition bomb because I just was like, fuck you guys. Yeah, basically.
I don't think I got that direct exposition either, but even at the points where like the entities, like that old like Navy seaman or whatever, are like talking to you through the characters, I really didn't like that, because I always prefer these sorts of mysterious stories to remain mysterious in some ways. And that felt too real and too direct to be talking. Like, I would have liked it more if it was a more sort of existential or like Lovecraftian thing going on, where it's like truly mysterious, but it felt too explained.
That's kind of the vibe I was getting at with the exposition, where it's handed to you. Like, it at first it starts off that way, where it is kind of creepy and Lovecraftian and mysterious, but then the game kind of eventually realizes that you're nearing the end, and so starts dishing it out far more sort of clearly, and that's when I started getting frustrated with it.
So Christian, what you're saying is that you
because-
prefer the Party Lights Stranger Things method.
I
liked it because it was the risk, the consequence of you failing was that they are taking stronger and stronger possession of your friends. That's what they wanted. That was their intended outcome, and that's what they were progressing to, which gave you the impetus to fight it.
I think
you could have figured that out in more creative ways rather than just being told it, personally. But I do like that idea, though.
I do agree. I think for me, like, the way I took away, these are human characters that are stuck on this other dimension. We're told through Maggie Adler's notes and such that they were acting like children. And so it kind of makes you feel sympathetic for the fact that they are trapped there, and they've had to witness the timeline start and end over and over again. Like, they have been trapped there for multiple eternities, and they want to be out. And yeah, they're the villain, but you can understand as well why they want out there. But if that was just some Cthulhu-esque monster, like, who the fuck cares, right?
Well, I don't mean like a monster. I mean just something more unknowable.
Yeah, I don't know if that like would have been for me any more interesting though, because then I wouldn't have really connected with those characters and actually been like, I can understand why you're wanting out of this. Whereas, given it's a narrative, I don't think you would have really been able to have a conversation with that character at that point.
That's a taste thing.
Yeah, I was just about to say, we're just debating personal taste now. That's all it is. Yeah.
Oh, well, do we want to do a bit of a roundtable wrap up then into a summary of our thoughts? So, Jan, do you want to kick us off? What was your overall impressions of the game as a whole?
I really liked it. I don't know if the price tag is exactly right for the 4 hours it took me to go through it, but I had zero expectations going in. I didn't even read the little synopsis blurb thingy in Steam. Thank you for the suggestion, Anthony Brown. It was pretty neat, and I'm glad I played it.
Nice. Adrian, how about you?
I like the art style. I initially liked it, and overall as an experience, I think it was positive. Like, I don't look back on it and say that it's not worth playing. I think it is worth playing, and I can appreciate how some people would really enjoy it. For me, it's purely a taste thing. I thought the story was boring. I thought the characters were annoying and uninteresting. I thought the voice acting was bad. And I've mentioned before, but I hate finding out story through picking up letters and reading or listening to audio logs. And it felt like a bit for me. And overall, the thing I hated most about the game is that you can't run anywhere. That just drove me mad. Like, the fact that the game locks you into the pace of walking or running that it thinks you deserve, that just drove me insane. I hated the backtracking and the walking everywhere. Maybe I rushed through it too much, and that's why I didn't enjoy it, because I was in a frame of mind that I just needed to get through this game and experience it. That may have tarred my experience. Overall, it was fine, and I would suggest people give it a go because you might really enjoy it, like Jam and Matt. But I didn't enjoy the story, and I feel that's the point of this game. So for me, I just am not impressed.
Okay, all right, Matt. What about you?
I think that I really enjoy this game, and I think I would have enjoyed it substantially less if I went into it knowing as much as I know. So if you're still listening to this and you've just spoiled yourself without playing the game, how dare you, because you've just spoiled it for yourself. But no, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm not going to say it's a flawless game. I totally agree with Adrian's sentiment that the fact that you can't run anywhere is super annoying. It does feel really, really slow to get around. But I enjoyed taking my time with it. I enjoyed actually going out and collecting little snippets of information and feeling like I was learning about the story and understanding the story through my actions rather than just having a monologue. But, you know, if Adrian experienced a monologue at the end, then, you know, clearly that's a thing that can happen and then could totally spoil your experience. So at the end of the day, I absolutely recommend it. Like, and again, if you're listening and you just spoiled it for yourself, yeah, it's going to be harder for you to enjoy. I don't think the price tag is actually that bad, given that I put in about 6 hours to 100% the game, and the fact that it is absolutely a game you can play twice and get a completely different experience and actually have a completely different ending and still be satisfying, which, you know, at that amount, that dollar amount, for those sorts of hours of gameplay, I reckon that's absolutely 100% worth it.
Yeah. Okay. Christian?
I actually think the game is good. I think it's fine. I think that I can see why people would have enjoyed it more than I did. There is a lot to like in the game as a short little contained experience, but I feel like it just never engaged me enough to really, you know, make it like particularly memorable or exciting for me. I feel like the underlying story was deceptively uncreative. I think that compared to some really interesting like sci-fi and horror stories that I've read and watched, I think that it was surprisingly not that original. But it's fine. Like, it's worth playing. It's pretty well made, and yeah, it's a good game.
Yeah. Oh, fair enough. I mean, overall, I'd probably land a bit closer to Matt than most of the rest of you. So I really, really enjoyed the game. I thought it was great. And I didn't spoil myself ahead of time by looking up things before I played it too, which was definitely an advantage, you know, when it came through to the end. So, yeah, but
none of us did that, did they?
No.
No.
I don't think so. No. I mean, I haven't even looked at spoilers afterwards, to be fair. I kind of wanted to just chat to all of you tonight about it. But, yeah, look, but this kind of game is exactly my kind of jam. Like, and I totally get why it's a taste thing. And I would still sort of agree with what just about everybody tonight has said, you know, because absolutely. I think that what we've all covered is kind of all true from different perspectives. So nobody's, you know, immensely off base. It very much comes down to how you enjoy the style of game and how you'll sort of play into those different mechanics and elements. So, but yeah, no, I personally think that the price is fine for what it was for me, and I would absolutely recommend it. And I think this is probably one of my favorite party games that we've reviewed over the time that I've been doing this segment on the show with you know, the various different ones of you over time as well. So, I don't know if it's top 3. I think it's probably, you know, pretty close to the top of the list without sort of getting it right on top of the pile. But yeah, no, I enjoyed the hell out of it. I thought it was great. So, but there you go. So that's an example of a very good, well-rounded review by the entire team.
Yes.
So,
Nona is too good for Ren.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I had a great ending where I managed to obliterate one of the characters from existence. So that was great.
Really?
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I will say the whole thing about Ren and the other characters being annoying, they are teenagers.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what made it believable for me. That
Yeah.
sold it. Oh
It
my
wasn't-
god, these little shits.
It wasn't the fact he was a
one.
teenager. It wasn't the fact he was a teenager that was annoying. It was the voice and the writing that made him
Yeah.
annoying.
I really do think that the voice was on purpose. I don't disagree that, again, I think the delivery wasn't great in places. The moment that Ren got stoned a second time, I was like, fuck you. Like, seriously, you are a fucking dipshit. I am done with you.
I just want to say one last thing, and it's the fact that it may sound like I'm not into narrative games, but I actually do really, really enjoy a strong narrative. I just feel like I had I feel like it fell far below my expectations as far as a good narrative goes, and I think that if you take it on face value, the narrative appears to be really deep, but the more you look at it, I think it's just quite lazy. I think that's what struck me as turning me off is that it didn't do anything that
Narrative is the most important thing for me.
Yeah.
Have you played
I
What
found it
Remains
kinda
of
lazy.
Edith Finch?
I have not. No.
Play that game.
Put it on our list, yeah. Maybe we'll roll
It
it
was
up.
on the list.
Yeah.
We reviewed it a year or two ago, and it's
Okay.
my favourite of all time.
Well, that was before we got here.
Yes, you got to catch
So
up.
it didn't exist.
That's it. Put it on the back burner list for round 2, maybe.
Play it again.
When we run out of party games, we'll put it back on. Yeah, anyway. Anyway, speaking out of running out of party games, one thing you can do to ensure that we don't, in fact, run out of party games to review on our list is actually to take part and recommend one for us. So you can actually recommend a party game of the month for us to check out and review. You can do that via all of our social media means. So you can hop onto Twitter, or you can hop onto Facebook, or you can email us directly. And you can send us through a recommendation. And if you are lucky, we will actually randomly pick your name out of the people who have recommended us games. And we'll give you a copy of the one that we've just reviewed for this month. So now, Christian, who is our winner for this month for submitting an
Our
idea?
winner for this month is Nobuyoshi Motonaga.
Nice.
Yay!
So Nobuyoshi
Congratulations,
has
Nobu.
been like a fairly recent entrant, actually. So you have just won yourself a copy of Oxenfree if you haven't played it already. And if you have, then you might want to gift it to someone. We'll organise it with you offline, essentially. So, yeah. So if people want to suggest a game for us to review, then there's a few guidelines we want them to sort of go by. And the sort of things we're after are what, Matt?
So you can go and submit it to us, but we want it to be a game that's actually released. It can't be. It can be early access. That's fine, but no coming soon or anything like that. We want it to be a game that you've actually played and can suggest. Hopefully, you've played it. It must be on PC, mobile, or multi-platform. We don't want any console exclusive stuff because we don't all have every single console. It has to be a maximum of 40 US dollars, 40 Australian dollars. You must be able to get a good impression of it in just a few hours of gameplay, and you send all of your suggestions to us via all the mediums that Luke has already mentioned. So Facebook, Twitter, email, that sort of thing.
Easy peasy. All right, so that leaves one order of business, and that, of course, is randomly selecting our party game for next month for us to review.
I'm ready.
We have quite the list to roll from tonight, so looking forward to this. Jam has the random number generator, so Jam, when you're ready, give it a roll.
Okie dokie. Number 6.
All right, this is a new edition. We have Glass Masquerade 2.
Ooh, that was recommended by Walker, my internet wife.
To which
Thank you,
I
Walker.
say, what the hell is this?
It's a puzzle
Yeah.
game. I had a quick look before the show. It's
It's the sequel to Glass Masquerade 1, Luke.
yes.
Yeah, Luke.
Well, it's clear to me now.
Yep.
Apparently, it's a very good chill, wasting time game where you piece together little intricate puzzle pieces. The first game was based on world clocks. The second one, I don't know. I haven't read too much more about it.
All right.
But it was only $6 or $7 roughly, I think.
Okay.
So a fun little one.
So like
It looks like it reminds me of what's that, like the iOS game where it's like a puzzle table or a puzzle box or something?
Oh, The Room?
Oh, the last.
The Room,
Yeah,
yeah.
The
It
Room.
reminds me of The Room. It's just by a cursory glance.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Well, we haven't had a dedicated puzzle game for a little while, I don't think. So, yeah, good to mix it up a bit. We've had a good variety recently of like Roman gladiatorial sort of house management and heavy narrative island adventures, and now puzzle games. So, yeah, mix it up. Sounds good.
Cool.
So, Glass Masquerade 2 will kick off with our April Party Game of the Month review. But yeah, in the meantime, you can get us at all the usual locations. We've mentioned before, our Twitter is @PartyLoadedShow. Email is mail@partyloaded.com, and Facebook, just hunt for Party Loaded. You can check out all the links to our stuff as a whole by going to our hub over at channelendgame.com, and please check out our YouTube and our Twitch content as well, of which Matt is still running regular streams when his internet doesn't crap out. So-
Yeah. I should be doing some more Fallout 1 this week. I was going to say Fallout Fun, but that's also accurate.
Yep. Nice. All right.
Unless it's 76.
Oh.
Unless it's 36 now.
Yeah.
Deadly serious. When I was doing the charity stream, I was hating every minute of playing Fallout 76. Like,
Yay!
I was just wandering aimlessly. Like, I don't know how I'm going to play this. How long I'm going to play this for, and I have no idea what to do. It's just, shooting stuff is still fun, but meh. That's all I have to say.
Crappy pizza, better with friends.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, what other stuff have we got on for the next week? I'm going to be playing some Destiny 2 and some Devil May Cry when that hits later in the week. So anyone else got anything interesting they're checking out?
I'm just going to be biding time until Sekiro comes out, playing random small stuff.
That's what, 2-3 weeks away? That's getting pretty close now, isn't it?
March 22nd, so yeah, a couple of weeks.
Okay, nice.
I am definitely booting up Destiny 2 once we're done on here, and I have actually also reinstalled Sims 4.
Oh.
Holy shit. That's dangerous.
I
Not
saw
for
the new
you,
expansion,
for Jam
and it
and I,
looks
because
actually
as soon as
pretty
we know
good.
one of our friends is playing that game again, we'll probably play it.
Crap. And I have access to all of the content now with my Origin Access Premiere.
Oh, shit.
Maybe you're not getting rid of it.
Shit.
Yeah. In fact, I've just realised that my party loaded house that I built in my last save, I haven't added on Matt or Adrian to that yet, so
Oh.
maybe.
I don't want to be a doll in your little fetish house. Keep me out of it.
You can be one of the pets if you want, Adrian, if you'd prefer.
Yeah, all right.
All right.
Make me a crab.
Yeah.
Pet crab.
Do a crab. I don't know if there's an expansion pack for that just yet, but I don't know. I'll have a hunt for it. All right, well, anyway, thanks everybody for listening. Hope you've enjoyed our review of Oxenfree tonight, as well as all the other fun stuff that we chatted about. We'll, of course, be back again for another helping in 7 days' time, but that's it from us tonight. So thanks for listening, and good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Hi.
The Party Loaded podcast is a Channel Endgame production. For this and more great gaming content, bookmark channelendgame.com.